Welcome to 10 p.m. with Galinsky. We've got a great guest tonight, Billy Hayes. Yay! How are you, sir?
I'm very good, thank you. All things considered.
Well, yeah, but I'm going to be a little facetious. You spent time in some solitary at a certain point in your life. You got any coping mechanisms for us?
I was online the other day in the store buying some stuff, you know, at the 6-foot distance, and one of the people there started talking about how he said the hard thing is going to be that none of us really know what lockdown is, and I started to raise my hand as like, no, I realized I
don't want to go into it.
Lockdown is very different than locked up. So for me, again, I'm sort of approaching it like I did with prison 50 years ago: yoga and meditation and weed. And of course, now I've got Wendy with me too, which adds a whole nother element.
Much better food.
And much better food.
We're going to welcome Wendy and also our chat room. John Trefero's here, Turco Ono's here, Andrew Einhorn's here, Jack Fuller is here. Jack's an amazing guy. They're all amazing. My brother Andrew's on, Jay Festa, Tom Cavallaro. Good crowd here. So chatters, feel free to add questions at any time. Ask questions at any time, and we'll bring them right into Billy, because this is a great opportunity. What I'm going to go and start off with something not really related to your journey with Midnight Express, but just what your interpretation is of how our country is now embracing marijuana. It's now embracing cannabis. It's now embracing some of the things that you were vilified for. Oh, he's frozen. You're frozen, Billy. You know, somebody doesn't want him to answer that question. Hey, Mark Schumann. I got Billy Hayes here. He's frozen in the screen, so hopefully he'll reboot and come back to us. In the meantime, I will share with you the movie poster. Well, there it is. Where is it? There. That's the canceled passport of William James Hayes, birth date 1947. Hey Zulima. Hey Heidi. We're waiting for my guest to come back. His monitor froze up, and he should be back any second. Let's see. Yeah, he just ended the broadcast, which is why I'm center stage. Well, I'll tell you about some of the upcoming guests that we have. Monday, we're going to celebrate 420 with Richard Stratton. Richard Stratton is a filmmaker and a producer, an actor, a writer. He was a good friend with Norman Mailer, Timothy Leary. And Richard was sentenced to 25 years in prison for marijuana smuggling. A little theme here, but it is 420 on Monday. He's going to be with us for a half an hour. He did 10 years. And when he got out of prison, he made movies. He's won the Sundance Award.
Okay.
There we are. So that's Monday. I was telling people what's going on Monday. So yeah, tell me what your thought is on the ever-changing view of cannabis.
Well, the fact that it's legal is nice. The fact that it can be, you know, delivered here in Vegas, they come in and bring it to your door, is nice. But while we're talking about that, you know, 500,000 people are in prison for cannabis as we speak. So that's an issue that still needs to be dealt with. The sooner the better, obviously. But meanwhile, the reality is people aren't getting arrested and put in jail as much as they used to, which is good. There's places that they do. And this all is going to change. And the legality of cannabis, it's finally come around to where the economics trump, excuse that word, everything else involved here, because even the states that didn't like it before and had all of these moral objections to it, they realize the state next to them is making hundreds of millions of dollars every year in profits that they need. So why don't they do it? And they're all doing it now.
They found their morality
There you go. Exactly.
Right. A couple new people joined us. Heidi Bell, Mark Schumann. Mark asked me a question. Mark, ask Billy a question. You can ask me anytime. I love you. Amy Alt's in the chat. Amy, it's every weekday, 10 o'clock Eastern. James, so Turco Ono says timing is everything. Some people are ahead of the curve. Others are behind the curve as to marijuana and other things.
Yeah, I feel like.
Oh, we lost them again. Must be that shaky Vegas connection they got. the internet. When he comes back, I will tell him that he needs to probably close other windows and other things going on. So I will just keep going here. Welcome, Ranjit, Jamie. Hey, Margaret, good to see you. Tom, elaborate on the Jim Carrey spoof. So as I was saying, Richard Stratton, he just did the John Gotti documentary that aired on Bio. He's a writer, an award-winning filmmaker. He's on Monday. He did 9.5 years in prison for smuggling marijuana into the country. According to him, if you smoked marijuana in the 70s or 80s, you probably smoked what he smuggled in. He didn't just smuggle in little bits of thousands and thousands of tons of marijuana for 2 decades. That's Monday. Tuesday night, 10 o'clock Eastern, right here, it's Keith Shockley of Public Enemy, the band Public Enemy. He's half of the Bomb Squad, and he produced the first 3 albums. He did all the beats, all the magic that's on those albums. He's now DJing. He's been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, African American Museum in DC. Keith Shockley, great guy, and member of Public Enemy. Wednesday night at 10, it's going to be Alan Zweibel, one of the original Saturday Night Live writers. We're back with Billy Hayes. Hey, man.
I guess we're stuck with this internet. A lot of traffic going on now this hour.
Maybe you have any other web browsers open or any other stuff on your computer that, no? Okay, cool. So Doug Shields asked, what is 7 times 7? I know what it is. Ilya, Rosita, welcome. So let's go to some images here, and you can tell us what we're looking at for fun.
Okay.
What are we looking at here?
Oh, that's my passport. I dyed my hair. I have blonde hair. I have black hair in that passport because I dyed it myself in an Istanbul hotel room. I also dyed my mustache, which was blonde. I made that black, but it looked so phony, like a big chunk of licorice on my lip. I went back out and got a razor and came back and shaved it off. But that's the passport the American consul gave me in Thessalonica when I escaped into Greece.
So this is post incarceration.
This is after swimming across the river from Turkey into Greece. And I was in a cell in Greece for 12 days. And then the American consul came out and they took me out, got me a new photo, the one you're seeing there, and a new passport. And I was able to use that to fly out of Greece.
Amazing. New people join the chat. Jamie, Ronnie Schenk, Terrence Noonan. Good to see you, Terrence. Guys, type your questions into the chat for Billy. We'll answer them. Let's go to another photo. This is obviously not in Turkey.
Wow. That's the 1978, the Cannes Film Festival. We had just finished the film screened. When it stopped, there was dead silence for a moment in the audience. And the producers all thought people hated it. And they were ready to run out the door. And then suddenly the audience erupted.
Really?
Cheering and screaming. And they dragged me up among the other actors. And I was kind of blown away because I've just been 2 hours in front of the screen, the memories in front of me and the memories behind me in my mind. And this was coming out the front door and there were 100 reporters there. As you can see, I've got this shocked look on my face and I'm in a white 3-piece suit looking like I just come out of Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah, I was going to say, no one else got the white tux memo, I think, huh?
You know, one of the Columbia kids who was running things, he told me before I got to Cannes, that he said, you need a tuxedo for the opening. And I said, well, shit, I don't have one. And he said, rent one. And I didn't want to spend money. But my girlfriend at the time had gotten me this white 3-piece suit. So I said, can I wear a white 3-piece suit? And the kid said, yeah, sure. So I wore it. The next day, I got so much shit from the producers and the director. Said, look at you standing there like, the sacrificial lamb in your white suit. I said, Michael told me I could wear it. He said, Michael's an idiot.
How far after your escape did the film come out? How many years was between?
I escaped on October 7th, or October 6th, actually, 1975. And I wrote the book right afterwards. And this is May of 78. So this is like two and a half.
All right. He's frozen again. He's frozen again. Now we can talk about him. Well, he's going to reboot. This is the first time this has been happening, but maybe it's a Vegas streaming issue. And I see that there's not many questions. Hey, Willie, good to see you, brother. Good to see you. I'll go back to my little promo until he comes back. So again, Monday night, Richard Stratton, incredible filmmaker, another advocate of this harmless plant called cannabis. We'll go a little longer tonight so that we get Billy as he continues to reboot. Tuesday night, Keith Shockley from Public Enemy. Wednesday night, that's where I left off. Alan Zweibel, one of the original writers from Saturday Night Live. He's got insane stories. His new book just came out, and he's written for Curb Your Enthusiasm, The David Letterman Show. He's won Emmys. He co-produced and co-created The Gary Shandling Show. He's an incredibly hilarious guy. He's got some great stories of how he met Lorne Michaels. Billy Crystal brought him to a club, and Lorne, asked for some jokes, and he came back the next day with a stack of jokes that he wrote this big. He spent 48 hours, whatever, writing them up. And Lorne Michaels read 3 jokes, shut it, and said, "Okay, you're a really great comic writer, but you're a terrible stand-up. So I'm going to hire you as a writer." Zweibel's got some incredible stories for us next week, and here with Billy Hayes again. It's all good. We work it out. So we're still waiting for some questions, but let's go back to where we were. So I have a question. So this is only 3 years after you escape. Yeah. You must be kind of feeling like you're in a foreign world here. And then also my second question is, you're a handsome young dude who's got this incredible story. How did you not fall into the pit of what a lot of people do when they become a star, so to speak?
What pit is that?
The indulgence, or were you getting offers? You're very photogenic. Were you getting offers to do other things, or?
I had offers to do most everything. And then of course I had Brad Davis next to me, who Brad was unique. He was pretty amazing. And he became an overnight star, and he'd been working as an actor for 10 years. Who played me. And then when the movie came out, I can't tell if we're still on or not.
We're on.
Okay. When the movie came out, Brad was an overnight smash, an overnight international success. And people offered him everything. And he said, yes, 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 more, more, more. And we kind of like did that together for a while.
Gotcha.
Luckily, I was a little bit more discriminating than Brad, and I didn't follow up anywhere near as much as he did with the excesses, which unfortunately, by the time he kind of reined it in and started going to AA and stopped drinking and such, he had gotten sick and he had AIDS. And no matter what Hollywood says about helping and so on, if they know you're sick, you don't work. So he had to keep it quiet for a couple of years towards the end because, he had a wife, he had a young daughter he was having to support. And that was hard. That was hard because, I had such a unique relationship with Brad.
Let's look at another photo. What is this? This is a product that is
the actually I've got a t-shirt on that's got the same label, Midnight Express, Find Your Freedom. That's the trademark logo that we're using now. I'm getting back into the cannabis biz, and great. I've got a product of CBD. I'm working with Hemp Inc. and we have a hemp pre-roll. These are high CBD pre-rolls, and we're using the Midnight Express Find Your Freedom logo.
Terrific.
So I'm back in the biz again.
Where's this? Right after live. Is this right after your escape? Where is it?
This is the airport at Kennedy. When I landed, there was all of these people with cameras and lights and screaming questions. And just to the left of me, on my right, that's my dad. You can see him on one side, and that's the passport I'm holding in front of me. And the gentleman on the far right with his arm up, that's Mike Griffith, my lawyer, who sort of arranged this press conference to be at the airport when I arrived.
So there's some people who don't know the story. Tell me if I'm right or wrong. You go to Turkey, you tape some hash to your body, you get back to the States, no problem. Months later, you say, hey, I think I'll do it again. Are you with me? Did I lose you again? Lost you again. Oh, well, we carry on and hopefully he'll reboot again. So I'll say what the story is that I've read over and over and from the movie. He goes there, he tapes some blocks of hash to his body. He goes home. It's successful. So he decides to go back. He's a late teenager, right? He goes back and he does it again, a second time. Then he does it a third time, and the third time is not the charm. He gets arrested. He gets bullied in court and ends up getting sentenced to life in prison, hard labor in Turkey in the 70s. Jack is asking how long was he in prison? 5 years. 5 years in prison, a hellish prison from what it sounds and looks like. And he decides that, he can't take it anymore. So he escapes. I'm going to let him tell the escape part of the story again, because it's phenomenal and it's bizarre. And I'm hoping he gets back soon. If he doesn't get back soon, I'll tell you more about upcoming guests. Let's see, on Tuesday, the 28th, that's the following Tuesday. Here he comes. All right, Billy. All right, we're good.
Hey.
All right, so Billy.
I realize some of your viewers may not even know my story because, this is 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Which summed up is, I was arrested at the Istanbul airport in October 1970 with 2 kilos of prime Turkish hashish, really good stuff, which is cannabis, taped under my arms, trying to get on an airplane. Seemed like a good idea at the time.
How old were you?
I was 23 when I was arrested. And then I spent the next 5 years in prison. I had an original sentence of 4 years and 2 months, which is like 50 months in prison. And then 54 days prior to going free, they changed my sentence and retried me, and I was sentenced to life in prison. And then it took me another almost 2 years, but eventually I was able to get transferred to an island prison in the Sea of Marmara and escape off the island in a rowboat one night in a storm. I used to be a lifeguard and a surfer. The swimming wasn't the hard part. And then I spent the next 3 days running through Turkey, dyeing my hair, like you showed that photo earlier, in an Istanbul hotel room, and then eventually swimming across the Marmara River into Greece, where I knew Greece would never send me back to Turkey.
That is the very short thumbnail version. That's an incredibly, that has none of the, just for my listeners and viewers, none of the emotion, none of the pain that was also experienced in that. Quick welcome for Aiden Grant into the house, Luisa Santiago. A couple questions here. Michael Fomkin. Hey, Michael just joined in. How long were you in prison? We know that. Did Alan Parker add to the screenplay? Somebody wants to know. And we won't find out until he comes back because his connection is no good, people. His internet connection, his people connection is fine. While he's gone, let's just scroll through a couple of these images here. Terribly sorry about this technology, but there's a young buff Billy. Looks like Willie Wisely almost, a friend of mine. There he is, a little bit of an older cat. Brad Davis from the film, getting manhandled. I want to know more about this. This is him in Turkey. We're going to ask him about the scene that Oliver Stone rewrote. This is from his one-man show. So Billy does a one-man show, writing the Midnight Express, and he does that. Am I frozen too now? Is this going on like that? Is that what's happening here? Someone tell me if I'm frozen. No? All right, good. He does a one-man show called Writing the Midnight Express and explains the whole thing. It's really beautiful and dramatic. There he is again as a young cat. This is the prison that he was in. There it is from a farther angle back. This is the escape route. Hey, Billy.
Uh-huh. Hey.
I just moved it. Yeah. Why don't you tell us the escape? So this is the prison, right?
No, I see a photo of a Midnight Express poster up there.
Yeah, something is frozen here. All kinds of bad shenanigans going on with the technology tonight.
Yeah.
What do you see now?
Just you.
Okay, good. Let's try this again. Do you see the prison now?
That's the prison. That's earlier for the prison. That's Imrali Island Prison, and I was able to escape off that island in a rowboat in a storm one night. There's a better one.
Yeah.
And row across to the mainland of Asia Minor, and then spend the next 3 days running. There it is, from there up and around to Istanbul, and then from Istanbul across to the Greek border and swam the river into Greece.
So somebody asked, any sharks? What was the danger in that water? Was it cold, strong, long?
It was cold and it was a big storm. That's why I was able to get off the island in the rowboat. And you know what? If any sharks came near me, I'd have eaten them. I've been in jail for 5 years. I'm ready to go. Bring those sharks on.
Did you tell anybody you were taking off? Any other inmates? Did you have
No.
No. You just got out of there. And did you know that did you know a storm was coming and you planned it to go on that night?
Oh yeah. I was waiting for the storm to come. I'd seen earlier how the fishing boats come to the island every day and unload produce. And then we have a canning factory there. And then they load canned stuff on and unload the produce. And then they leave because they're not allowed to spend the night on that island because it's a prison island. But when a storm at sea is so bad that they can't get off, that's when they spend the night on the island. And that's when I saw the little dinghy, little rowboats tied up behind them. And I was going to swim at first, but I'm a lifeguard and I was a surfer and all that stuff. It was 26 kilometers. That's a long swim, even especially after 5 years in jail.
Yeah.
But one of these little dinghies, I knew if I get one of these little dinghies, I can get off this island.
And then that wasn't the end of your escape because you're now on foot, right?
Yes, I actually rode across to the mainland of Asia Minor and then spent the next day making my way back and around to Istanbul again. And I went to a little hotel where a former prison friend of mine was now working as assistant manager, and he spoke great Turkish. He became a Muslim and he owed me big time for saving him from a bad beating once in jail. I figured he'll hide me out. We'll get some false papers in a week. I'll split the country. But when I got there, the hotel manager said, "Oh, Wolfgang, no, you just missed him. He left yesterday to Afghanistan." Like, oh no, that's the end of plan A. I had plan B, which was to get to the Greek border and swim across the river, but I didn't want to do that. I've been rowing all night in this boat and running, and I just wanted to collapse on the ground and cry, but that wasn't an option. So.
Oh, he just gets rolling, he just gets cooking, and then bam! The internet messes with us. I got your question, Kim. Good to see you, Kim. Be Kim Taylor. We'll get that question in there. Andrew Einhorn, we'll get your question in there. Don't go away, people. We are going to power through this. I mean, homie went to a Turkish prison for 5 years. We can handle this. This is no big deal. And that gives me an opportunity to take you back to promotion land. So on Tuesday, the 28th, we have Lisa Jessie Peterson. Lisa Jessie Peterson has a one-woman show called The Peculiar Patriot. And Lisa is a writer. She was teaching at Rikers Island Jail for 20 years. She was a consultant on Bill Moyer's documentary called Rikers. She was in the film 13th. And she's performed in over 300 different prisons with her show. She's an incredible woman. And then on Wednesday, the 29th, Turco Ono, you're gonna love this. Our guest on Wednesday, the 29th, is a cousin of mine who is one of the greatest mentors in my life and a pro and college football coach. Coached for the St. Louis Rams, scouted for the Super Bowl winning New England Patriots, assistant head coach at Boston College, been in coaching for 36 years. Phenomenal guy. Welcome back, Billy Hayes. Billy Hayes, welcome back.
Thank you. I don't know how much of that last answer you heard or not. I was just babbling away. I realized we were gone. Where did we leave off?
We left off at you saying, "Damn, man, I swam and rowed a lot. I wasn't ready for that." The next leg of plan A was now trashed because your guy wasn't in the hotel.
Right. So now I had to get to the Greek border where I knew if I swam across the Maritsa River into Greece, I knew the Greeks would never send me back to Turkey, not for 2 kilos of pot.
And they didn't.
And they didn't. No, they were very nice. They kept me in a little room in the woods for 12 days while they figured out what to do with me. And eventually I was deported from Greece as a bad influence upon the youth of Greece, which is the same charge against Socrates.
You're in good company. We're going to go to our chat and get a couple questions here because of, let's see here. Andrew Einhorn asks, has Billy traveled in the last 10 to 20 years to the Middle East or Europe anywhere, and how does he feel when he travels?
Yes, I've actually traveled quite a lot. You know, I've been doing this one-man show, Riding the Midnight Express with Billy Hayes, which I started in New York. No, started at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in 2013 and have been pretty much doing it ever since. And I've been all over the world. We were in London a few times. I was in Scotland. We did the show in Melbourne, Australia.
Let me ask you about Turkey. Let's jump to Turkey for a sec. There was a photo here I hope we didn't go through this. Oh yeah, here it is.
This one, yeah.
This one. So like you had, and I've seen this in your one-man show, where Oliver Stone changed your reaction when you were convicted.
Yes.
And in the film, it's one way. I want you to tell the story. In the film, it's one way. In real life, it's another way. Talk about that and what it means to you to then now later in life be able to, go to Turkey and hold their flag.
Well, it's one of the biggest changes in the film is the fact that in the courtroom, Oliver Stone wrote a speech where I'm cursing out the nation of Turkey. Fuck you all, you're a nation of pigs. I fuck your sons, I fuck your daughters, which, the Turks were very upset about that. They issued the Interpol warrant for my arrest, not when I escaped, not when my first book, Midnight Express, came out, but when they saw this movie and saw that scene in the movie, they issued a warrant that stood for the next 20 years. What I said in the courtroom was, laws change from one country to another and one time period to another. And if you're going to sentence me to more prison, I can't agree with you. All I can do is forgive you. Forgive you? Fuck your sons and daughters? Big difference.
Very big difference.
And the Turks heard fuck your sons and daughters. And they also saw me kill a guard, which I didn't do in the movie. I escaped off the island in a rowboat. In the movie, they got me kill a guard, make that speech in the courtroom, and then rush out. So as far as Turkey's concerned, I killed one of their guards and I cursed out the whole nation. Where in truth, I didn't kill anybody. And I said, I forgive you. It took 20 years to get that straightened out. By the time I was able to go back to Turkey and speak in Istanbul to a whole.
We got I appreciate you, audience, dealing with this. We've got all these little glitches going on. But that's a great little freeze frame of him, isn't it? Somebody get a screen grab of that, send it to me. Do you mind? Kim, we're going to get to your question, why it was changed. Welcome, Billy Harris. Hey, Jamie. Hey, Ron Cephas. Hey, Stephanie. Welcome, welcome. No, he escaped alone. Some of these I can answer while we're waiting. He escaped alone. He did it on his own, Rosita. Hi, Alicia. We're in a pause here as we wait for Billy to get back on. His computer or something's acting funny. All right, let's see if we can get details for the precise moment. He has the book, yes, Midnight Express. Find it, it's great. Kim wants to know about keeping in touch. All right. I believe he walked to the boat, but let's check in with him. He's an amazing guy. And this is just terrible. For a full 2 decades, Turkey wanted him dead because of that scene and that murder that didn't happen. And there, like he said, it's a big difference from I forgive you to screw your daughters. And if you look at the scene in the film, it actually is pretty visceral and exciting in its own way, but it's total BS. Tom Cavallaro, he's the first one to send in the screen grab to me. Tom wins a prize. Remind me, Tom, tomorrow that you won a prize. All right, I guess Billy will be back any second now. I'm going to try to...
Here we go.
All right, great. So I'm going to jump into questions that have been sitting in the chat here. And we're not going to go too much longer, but I want to make sure we get these answers. Why was your sentence changed?
The High Court in Ankara changed the sentence to Richard Nixon, and the United States government was pressuring Turkey to increase their penalties. So this is how they did it.
Wow.
The war on drugs.
Yep. This is the beginning of that. The prison was called what again? Imrali?
Imrali was the island prison that I escaped off, but I was only there for like 5 months. Most of the time I was in Sağmalcilar prison in Istanbul.
And so someone said, did you actually bite that guy, the rats out?
No, bite the tongue. No, actually I tried to kill him, which is such a strange thing to say now. He was a creep and he beaten up a friend of mine and he deserved it. But the guards pulled me off before I was able to accomplish what I wanted. The filmmaker, they liked the fact that the prison traitor and the snitch got his tongue bitten out.
Yeah.
I actually don't have problems with that in truth, because I wanted to do that to him.
Yeah, right.
Deserved it. And there was so much violence around all the time that folks said, well, you know, they made up that violence. Well, they made that up, but they didn't have to make up all kinds of violence. It was jail. It was violence every day.
In the film, Brad Davis is absolutely terrified. And it's really compelling, that scene, those scenes in the beginning when he's trying to get visits from his parents and stuff. What was that like for you?
Well, that was the hardest part of jail for me, is the fact that I put my parents and everyone who loved me in prison. You know, I was such a selfish fucker. I didn't even think about it. You know, I smuggled 3 times successfully before I got busted on my 4th trip. I thought I was golden. I was 21 years old, 22 years old. I was invincible. And then suddenly I realized I just put my mother in prison and my dad in prison. And that was the worst part of jail for 5 years.
Jack Fuller wants to know details for that precise moment when you made your move to escape. Oh, the drama. It freezes just as he's about to, oh. Jack, we sit on the edge of our seats here as we await for the reboot. You guys are awesome for bearing with me. Hey, Stephanie, you're back in. Okay, good. Yeah, I had to go back to some questions. Hey, Christina Bella. All right, so we waited out, and as we waited out, again, I will tell you who else is coming up on this show. And I'm going to do a quick review. By the way, in the archive already, there's J.O. Sanders, there's Lynn Shea. We've done 2 shows so far. Billy Hayes right now. Richard Stratton on Monday to celebrate 420. Keith Shockley of Public Enemy on Tuesday. Alan Zweibel celebrating his newly released book, Saturday Night Live writer, one of the originals, worked with John Belushi, worked with Bill Murray in the early days. Billy Crystal wrote Martin Short's Broadway show, wrote part of Billy Crystal's Broadway show. That's Wednesday, Alan Zweibel. Tuesday of the following week, Lisa Jessie Peterson, brilliant actress and activist and writer. Wednesday, the 29th, Frank Buddy Leonard, coach of the St. Louis Rams, scout with the New England Patriots, assistant head coach, tight end coach at the Boston College, and a mentor, a lifelong mentor of mine. Marianne Plunkett, Tony Award-winning actor, following him. Marianne Plunkett also in some incredibly amazing roles at theater and in film. Great. So the exact moment you said, hey, I'm doing this. A couple details about that.
Well, the moment I did it was when the courtroom sentenced me from, I was going free in 56, 55, 54 days. I was supposed to go free. And then suddenly I went to court and got sentenced to life in prison. The escape switch came back on. I had turned the switch off. I had a switch on for my first 2 years. And then I turned it off for a lot of reasons.
In those first 2 years, because it looked pretty archaic. Were there like different interesting opportunities or possibilities of escape?
I tried several different escapes. I went to Bakırköy Madhouse. I discovered there's an article in Turkish law that says you're judged to be crazy, they can't keep you in prison. But if you're that crazy, they don't let you out on the street. They keep you in Bakırköy, the madhouse. But that's a better place to escape from. So I bribed the prison doctor and spent a couple of weeks in Bakırköy amidst the madness. This is an old hospital. This place that I was in used to be a barracks for the Sultan's Janissary troops back during the Ottoman Empire. And they kept all the crazies in there. It was like Bedlam, like where they bricked the doctor up alive in the wall, that old black and white horror film. That's what it looked like.
What did you bribe him with?
Money.
Where were you getting your money?
Various places, but mostly from my dad, who came after my sentence was changed. And he knew I was going to do something. He knew I'm not going to spend the rest of my life in prison. He smuggled a photo album in that he had cut out, and he put 27 $100 bills in the binding of this photo album. This is my dad, the straightest guy in the world, with all the good connotations of that word. And he came in there. If he got caught, we would have been in jail together. Thank you, Dad.
B. Kim Taylor, do you keep in touch with anyone else in the prison who was eventually released?
1 or 2 people over the years I've had contact with. So yes, to a small degree. But for the most part, guys who are in jail don't really want to talk to people who they knew in jail because you're seeing each other kind of at your worst. You know, prison says you're a loser, you're a loser, you're a loser 24 hours a day. And when you buy that, you're gone. When you walked, or when you went from your cell to the boat, somebody said, was it just a simple walk to get to that little dinghy? No, I was able to get out past the night bed check because I made friends with one of the big Kapadais.
Hey, made friends with one of the big Capadas, huh? You see what I'm saying? The Capadas. He went a friend with the Capadas. And we got another blockage. All right. It doesn't happen on the past two shows we've done, just so you know, if you want to go back and watch Jay and Lynn. It's a little smoother than this, but that's okay. That's okay. Also coming up is Stephen Henderson. If you don't know him by name, you know him by face. Brilliant actor. And Nicole Bahari is also coming up. Nicole was a star of Sleepy Hollow. She'll be on 10 p.m. with Galinsky soon. Maybe someone can ask me a question while we're waiting for Billy to come back. Hey, Christmas Cow. Good to see you. Sort of see you. Tom Cavallaro is posting some interesting links in the chat. Thanks, Andrew, for the tip. Mark, I'm going to ask him about the internet and that Turkish prison in the 70s. Yeah. We're not really super tech savvy here, Zulima. Like setting this up was a couple of sessions, so I don't think right now midstream him going to hitting the phone is going to work. But you know, we're getting it's dribs of drabs of stories from this guy, and he's wonderful. I will ask him what it was like to go back there and how people received him. I will ask that question. Hey, man.
How far did you get before I lost you?
Something about the Cusacatamato. You said the guy's name. Sounded Italian to me.
Capadai.
The Capadai. He was the prisoner, gangster prisoner. But he got me the excuse so I could be out after bed check, which is what I wanted. And then I told him and the guys, I said, I don't feel so good. And they said, here, have some hash. I said, no, I'm just going to go back up to bed. But instead of going back up to the bed check, the barracks, I went down to the harbor, and because the wind is blowing, and I was able to swim out to a little rowboat, a dinghy, and cut the rope on the dinghy, and then row to the mainland all night. And as I got to, it was almost dawn when the boat hit the beach at Asia Minor, which was
Mark Schumann has a question. By the way, I grew up with Mark. He's in the chat room, and he's now living in Cleveland. He wants to know if the internet was this bad in prison.
My big experience was like once a week, mail would come through a hole in the door. That's pretty much all of the contact you had in jail.
And what were some of the, speaking of that then, what were some of the treats? What were some of the day after day, the mundaneness of it all? What were some of the things that kept your hope up, and also just were little treats even?
Fruit. They have wonderful fruit in Turkey. And in jail, they serve you, beans and rice. They got 80 guys locked up together, and every day they serve beans. But they sell a lot of shit. It's a captive market. There's 3,000 guys locked up here. So you could buy fruit and yogurt and vegetables. In the summertime, some yogurt with fresh peaches, that's heaven. That's about as sensual as you can get in jail.
Clayton Patterson, who is a legend himself, by the way, anybody in the room there, you should check out Clayton's work documenting the East Village and Lower East Side of Manhattan, Alphabet City. He said,
Penny Arcade? Does he know my friend Penny
Arcade?
Penny.
He knows Penny Arcade intimately, very well. And we locked up again. So Clayton Patterson does know Penny Arcade, and Penny knows Clayton. Yeah, Midnight Express, Alicia. So I'm going to try to, get a few more answers in for you guys. Peacocks. We'll ask about the peacocks. What is your least and most favorite question you get? That's a great question. Hey, Harry Batt from the Hudson Theater in LA. So while we're waiting for Billy Hayes, why don't I do a little who's who of who I know anyway in the chat room, just to shine some love on those of you who showed up. Thanks for showing up. Zulima is an actress and a storyteller. Luisa Yvette Santiago is also an actress and storyteller. Rosita, actress. A lot of actresses in the house here. B. Kim Taylor is a screenwriter and a writer in general. Jack Fuller is a tennis pro and also a philanthropist working with homeless people in the San Francisco area. Tom Cavallaro, CBS digital producer, was my radio producer for a while. Tom Cavallaro. Let's see who was else in there. Andrew Einhorn is in the house. Andrew is a photographer and was the star of Playboy TV's Naked Happy People.
So-
There you are again.
Clayton Patterson had a question right before I got cut
Clayton
off.
just had a statement. What was it? I don't remember what it was, but we do. Yes, Clayton is very tight with Penny, and I know Penny pretty well too. One question, Andrew, my brother, is in the chat, and he has a question. What's a question that you get annoyed with, or that you get asked a lot that either you enjoy or you don't enjoy?
Nothing really annoys me. Again, I've been doing this for 40, 50 years now, answering questions, and it's part of who I am and what I do. So nothing annoys me.
What about the peacocks? Somebody said outwitted the peacocks.
That's true.
Tell us that.
At Bakırköy, in the madhouse of Bakırköy, I woke up one morning with this screeching and screaming, and I went outside, and all these guys were clustered together in one corner, jumping and jostling each other because a peacock had gotten tangled up in the rusty barbed wire and was flailing and dying, and all these guys were leaping up in the air for the bloody floating feathers. That was an interesting way to wake up. That was it.
It was basically the souvenir of feathers.
That's it. Covered with blood from the barbed wire, screaming and yelling, fighting each other as these feathers flew down from this peacock.
John Trefero wants to know, what was the Alan Parker Oliver Stone dynamic like on set?
Not very good. Alan Parker didn't really like Oliver very much. Oliver wrote a terrific script, which in the end, even out.
In the end, we stopped without knowing we stopped. In the beginning, Oliver Stone and Alan Parker didn't get along. That's my answer to the question. All right, let's go back into our chat room and again acknowledge you guys who have shown up. Turco Ono, a just retired Esquire out of Connecticut and newly nicknamed Turco Ono. My brother Andrew Galinsky, a musician and songwriter. Alicia Joy Powell is in the room. She's a brilliant actress. IMDb her, and just an awesome soul. I don't know if I'm missing anybody. Yeah, I think that's about it. I think I got everybody. It's hard to see so much. Any other questions? Let's queue them up. Jack Fuller says, Billy. Okay, I'll read that when he gets back here. Thanks, Ronnie. I'm glad you're enjoying the end of the week with me. I am too. I want to make sure I got the questions that I had in mind answered, and that courtroom scene was one of them, because I had heard that was BS, that he was a forgiving soul and not a monster, and that set off terrible things in his life with Turkey. I guess we'll come back with one more section with Billy, and then we'll cool it. Hey, Billy.
Here we go.
Jack,
so yeah, the relationship between Oliver and Alan was not terribly good.
Not good. Egos? Creative differences? Egos? What was it?
A little bit of that. And just because Oliver was an American and Alan and David Putnam were English and they had their ways. And
gotcha.
I don't think they liked the fact that Oliver sort of barged his way into their world. But, he wrote a great script.
The movie was shot in Sardinia. Where was it shot?
Malta. Island of Malta.
Right.
Fort St. Elmo. They took Fort St. Elmo and turned it into a prison, Turkish prison, which is rather ironic because Fort St. Elmo, the Crusaders held Fort St. Elmo for 6 months against the Turkish fleet that was heading towards Europe when the Ottoman Empire was sweeping towards Europe. And Fort St. Elmo held out for 6 months, which allowed the Europeans to gather their navy. And they had the famous Battle of Lepanto, where the European forces stopped the Turkish navy and turned them back, which if they hadn't, who knows, all of Europe might have been conquered by the Ottomans. They were ferocious.
Did the film have an impact on prison reform in Turkey, asks B. Kim Taylor.
I wish it had. No. In fact, probably quite the opposite, because I knew friends of mine who were still in prison when I got out. It was worse for them when I got out and wrote my book, because it created so much pressure on Turkey and the Turks that unfortunately some of my friends suffered for that.
Nancy Lynch Hutchings is in the house. Nice to see you, Nancy. So I have a couple final questions here. That's a really interesting freeze. That was my question. When did you start doing yoga? And now there he goes. He's stuck in a yoga. When did you start meditating? Billy, when did you start? Oh, you started right now in front of me. I get it. Well, I do know that he, we'll get him come back, obviously, from this glitch. But I do know that yoga, hi, Alicia, yoga and meditation are a huge part of Billy's life. And I'm going to ask if he started that in prison because of being in prison. And then we'll finish this up. And I appreciate you guys dealing with this minor glitch that keeps interjecting itself into our show here. Let's see, Alicia Galinsky, my niece, my goddaughter, is in the house. She's the one who did all the Spanish translations for Maddie's deck, which was a beautiful deck of cards that we put together from Maddie Stepanik's work. Jack, I'll make sure your comment gets written, and then we'll close this sucker down. And once he comes back, I'm getting a lot of screen grabs now. John Trefero with some decent trivia in there. Billy, we're going to finish it up. We'll finish it up with this section. Yeah. So I had a question about yoga. Were you doing yoga and meditation in prison because you were in prison and jail? Were you doing it before? Did it happen because you went there?
I was doing it just before I got arrested. I had a book called Light on Yoga, which is the famous book that was brought over from the east to the west into the United States. And I had Light on Yoga in my backpack while I was being arrested at the airport. And I literally did it every day, and I have done it every day for 50 years. It saved my life in jail. It still saved my life every day.
Jack Fuller says, Billy, you're a living example that life can go from extreme devastation and life is, quote, over, to an amazing guy who gives inspiration that life will be good. So appropriate for our current times. Grateful for you, Billy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Courage, people. Courage. This too shall pass.
So yes, let's close with what kind of wisdom. I'm sure there's oodles of wisdom, but what now can you tell us what we're going through, the trying time that we're in? Just drop a little of your science on us.
All I know is you need to stay calm within yourself, because that's the only thing you have control over. It's like prison. You have no control over anything except yourself. Well, now you're locked down, you're locked up, whatever, but you still have control over who you are, which is why yoga gives you that balance. It helps you stay calm, which I desperately need, because I get wired right off the hook if I don't do my yoga every day.
Thank you for being with us. Everybody in the chat is full of love for you. Everybody in the chat room is just saying what a wonderful interview and what a great time. Let's do this again. Shall we do it again sometime?
Anytime. Absolutely. I'm here.
Yeah, right?
We're not going anywhere.
Midnight Express is the brand as well as the experience. So check it out if you're into CBD. Billy, thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Robert. All right, we'll talk.
Peace.